And we are live for another Game On Expert interview. I am Jean Berry. Yes, it's my birthday today, thus the tiara. And who better to interview but someone who is very dear to my heart and is totally magic. So I'm very excited to have Kavita Singh with me today. And you know, one of the interesting things about me and Kavita is we tend to dream in parallel spaces. And so what happens is I'll call her and say, I had a dream. And she's like, I know. And so it always turns into this amazing shared experience. And one of her superpowers is that she loves playing connect the dots with higher consciousness. And so she always finds the connection between our current reality and where we're going, which is incredibly cool. And, you know, one of the things too is this connection between truth and fantasy, reality, and other dimensions. And she loves seeing the cosmic game in everything we create. So we're going to be talking games, and not just games, but the cosmic game today. So I'm incredibly excited to share with you my friend, Kavita Singh. Welcome.
Thank you, Jean. That was an absolute amazing introduction, and you were so on point in my love for connecting the dots, regardless if it's in our practical reality, if it's in the dream world, if it's something that's about to happen somewhere near the future, or something that happened in the past, and even in this moment, as we speak, we've had lots of stories in that real time experience of talking and sharing with each other. That magic continues to unfold. So thank you for having me here.
I'm so glad you're here. And of course, we're going to talk about some dreams. We're going to talk about some games. And I wanted to say to you, if you are here today watching live and you have questions for Kavita along the way, please feel free to type them in here, because what happens is, you know, I'll say I had a dream and you're going to be like, well, I had a dream about that. If you actually want to know what the dots are, Kavita will connect them for you. So be brave. Go ahead and share what's going on. If you have questions, go ahead and share them in here. If you are watching the replay later, feel free. You can still type in your messages here and we will come back and find you. Or of course, you can send us a message on Messenger and we'll find you there as well. We got a hey from Beth and Lois. So glad you guys are here with us live today. Yay. Always lovely to have you, and thank you for the happy birthday wishes. I appreciate that as well, because that makes it a super special, you know, magic day, because it means we're going to get celebration energy flowing at us here too. So
Yes,
it's all beautiful.
definitely.
So,
Yes,
okay,
I'm glad.
I did have a dream last night, Kavita.
Wonderful. Go
I know.
ahead.
It was a couple of days ago. I hadn't had dreams for a couple days. Actually, I had them. I just didn't remember them. But last night, the dream that I totally remembered was about, I was at an amusement park. And I was there with my friend Rachel and some other guy. I didn't know him, but I knew he was some business guy. Like, that's who I knew he was. And we were on a big, huge swing, like, ride. It was a ride, you know, and they were riding on little horses, you know, kind of like on a merry-go-round, only we were swinging like really big back and forth. And we're getting to the point where we're getting really high, and these two are going, yeah, let's go. And I'm thinking, we're going to go all the way around, right? We're going to go all the way around. And I'm thinking, this is really scary. And, you know, even in the dream, I kind of blacked out for that part because I don't remember the actual going all the way around. But then we're at the bottom, we're like, that was so fun.
I love it. Oh my goodness. And so the first thing that comes to mind as you share that is you were able to make that choice in your dream where because it feels scary. I mean, in our normal human reality, we would be like, okay, I don't want to go there, and I avoid it. But you're like, no, I want to see what happens, but I'm not sure if I can handle all of that excitement and all of that energy. So you were able to keep yourself in the game, right? Let's use the gamer language here. You kept yourself in the game, you kept yourself in the experience, had the full circle experience, and yet for the part that your body was thinking, well, that might be too much, too much of an overload of adrenaline or whatever else might be happening, you were able to cocoon yourself for that split second and still carry on with the experience. And it didn't make you miss any essential parts, because you had your team with you as well. You had your people with you. It wasn't just you. So it's not like, you close your eyes for a split second and the road turned and you had no idea, and then you were like, where am I in this moment? You had your team with you, fully supporting you. So that's the practical part of the dream. But then it's also where in your current reality now, I do see that there have been spaces in your current life from maybe childhood to now, where you have gotten to this level in your reality, regardless if it's business, if it's an endeavor, a hobby, or something, where you bump up against that energy of, ooh, this might be too much, and I don't know if I want to experience all of it. And there might have been times where you like, okay, let me just put a pause there. I'll come back to it. I don't need to address it in this moment. And you might have made those kinds of choices, but this time around, you're like, no, I'm not gonna do that back and forth thing of going back and forth between experiences. I'm gonna go through this. I don't have to experience um, that too much if I don't want to. So this was a great breakthrough for you in this moment in your life now, and I'm sure you're probably already doing it and seeing yourself do that compared to your previous choices. So let's know what comes up for you, and what is the big change that's happening here for you.
Well, I know. I'm like, oh my God, we're going to do the big roll around, right? What's happening next? And it's so interesting because on your birthday, and so if of all of you, I'm kind of curious if you do this kind of practice on your birthday too. On your birthday, it's kind of this moment to say, okay, well, what's the big thing? Like, what is coming? And I have felt all this energy coming at me. Like, there's no question that this is what's been going on. Is some subtle and some big changes also in things that I'm going to do inside my business. And some of them don't seem that big, but for me, I'm like, oh no, that's actually the big roll around. Like, that'll be this whole fun thing. And there's room for lots of people to come along. Hi, Daniela. Thanks for popping in. And thanks for the happy birthday wishes. I appreciate it. And so that, I mean, absolutely, I see that as, this next big thing coming up, and let's have some fun. Like, let's go to the amusement park and have some fun inside of that. And so this kind of brings up what we've been talking about over the last year, and what's really been your business model, which is this idea of gamer and avatar inside of your life and business, and being a sacred watcher, which we'll talk about in a second. But can you explain a little bit about this concept of being a gamer and an avatar inside of your life or business?
Sure, definitely. So, for those of you who may not know, one of my signature programs, it's called The Big Game, where we definitely play the roles of the gamer and avatar and all of that. And what that truly means is you, as in your human experience, in your human body, going about your daily life, we will call that version of you your avatar, right? Think of it as, let me use Mario Brothers on the screen. That's one that everybody can relate to, right? So you're that character on the screen.
Princess Peach. We're going to be Princess Peach.
Yes. So you're moving along the screen, you're facing your challenges, you're, getting your rewards and things, whatever you're winning. And so there's this entire game that gets to be played out. And based on your choices, you have different landscapes, and that kind of stuff. However, the person, as you sitting on the couch with a controller in your hand, we'll call that person the gamer, because the advantage of you being the gamer is that you get to see what's about to happen before it happens, and you get to navigate your avatar into in a perfect position to win, right? To keep moving through the game. You don't want to lose your spot. You don't want to lose your momentum. And this is the fun of the game. So in your human life as well, what does that mean? So while I'm having this human experience in this human body, my avatar is that part of me that we can call, some of us may call it intuition, some may call it, whichever part of you has the ability to zoom out and reflect on your life, and to go back a little bit in time, go forward a little bit in the future, and to see these things and be like, oh, wait a minute, I've been here before. I know I've done A, B, C, D, and those things haven't worked. And it's simply because I missed this step that happened 2 moments ago that I didn't think was important. But now that I see it, I'm going to choose differently, right? I'm going to choose letter X. So that's your gamer part of you. And then the other part that we tend to talk about, and I know, Jean, you hold this position quite regularly in your life and in your business. We like to call it the overlord. So, in this part of the dynamic of gaming, it's where you will have the ability not only to play through that game and to see all the things of it, but you can actually change games. You can actually uh, make decisions that may seem irrational that doesn't go to normal if then logic in gaming, right? And so you can call this part of you in your, again, in your human experience. This can be your higher self, right? Where it's like, all right, we've got this trauma, you've, whatever dynamics, whatever karmic things you want to talk about, but this is a situation that you're in, and your soul lesson is this, and you have a few choices to release this pattern. We can go through the lens of pain, we can go through the lens of it being an costly experience where money is a teacher. We can do it through the lens of love. We can do it through the lens of neutrality. Here are your choices, right? And so, based on our level of awareness, those choices become a match to serve us based on where we are. So, this is the lens of the overlord. And so, it's a really beautiful energy, but it's also that space where it can be like the wild card. The entire game can be flipped upside down, turned on its head. It can have very unexpected dynamics, but that's where it comes in actually to serve you. Don't see it as a disruption and a collapse of things, of, oh, but I needed things to be in order, but see it as blessing, almost like divine intervention is one way in which I would put it. So that's my summary
Beautiful. No,
of the
I
gaming
love this.
language.
Right. And it's interesting because, of course, when I played the overlord role, right, where, and it becomes a sacred watcher, right? The
Yes,
job then is to reflect back, and so that you can hear your higher self better. And so that's
yes.
really that piece. And so this would be the next thing that I want to ask you. So how do people actually hear that voice more clearly and be able to
Mm.
take action on it? Because this is where one of your superpowers really also shines, is that not only do you get people to the point where they're hearing their higher self in a deeper way and knowing this is my message, this is my role, this is where I'm supposed to go, but then they can also get an action on it, sometimes with a little nudge.
Yes. Um, I love this question so much because, again, we've been stuck in the lens of, well, intuition is the best thing since sliced bread. And and while that is true, it's not the only thing. So how do you get to that higher level? First of all, it would require you to not have all these voices, taking over your space in your head and screaming at you or all of that. So what happens, what I mean by voices in your head, it can be shadow voices, like the common ones, like, you're fat, you're ugly, you're stupid, that kind of thing that we've heard. The other ones can be like, one of the ones I've bumped up with quite a bit was, you're not capable, right? Which, it's such a ridiculous one because of course I'm doing the things, but it's where, if I choose to doubt myself, this is where that I will make that voice become true. And the only reason that is set up in my game is because my superpower is about trust and intuition. So, what would be the opposite of that? What would be the shadow? So, here are my shadow dynamics to help
Excuse me.
me remember the truth, not necessarily to make me feel like, oh, I this is what I'm going to choose to take myself out of the game, right? So, you can also apply this for yourself. Um, and once those voices are not pulling your attention and screaming at you, it's easier to experience yourself. For some of you, you might have experienced it in a sleep state, in a dream state, but in your human conscious awake state, you're able to experience that when your space is not taking over your energy, your thoughts are not taking over your energy, your body is not so much in physical pain that it's making you feel like you can't be present with yourself. So the energy of presence is the most important aspect in you tapping into that higher version of you, that higher self. Now, the irony that I do want to touch here as well is that sometimes when we are in extreme discomfort and pain in our bodies, it also pushes us to that space where we can be, oh, but I have nothing else left. So I'm going to drop all my things that I've been trying so hard and all the pieces I've been holding on so dearly. And my last resort is surrendering and really seeing what that means. And we can also tap into our higher self from that sort of dynamic. Not the best place to choose it from, but it does happen. And so now we have the opportunity to choose more consciously.
Absolutely. And so, okay, so if you're watching today, I'm kind of curious. Um, what is the main voice in your head maybe that isn't helpful? Like, is there an over, like I'm not good enough, or, who am I to do this, or those kind of things. I'm kind of curious if you have any one of those specific, and if you're feeling brave, actually Kavita will give you a little insights on those. So if you're feeling a little bit brave, you can tell us what that voice is in your head. And Kavita, you also use the kind of gamer language of avatars or archetypes to help people describe who's running the show here then inside of ourselves. And so it's that helpful idea of seeing, okay, I have these little voices that talk in my head. They say things to me, and sometimes I act on them and sometimes I don't. And so can you talk a little bit about that and this kind of the voice on inside your head?
Yes, for sure. Um, to make it simple for you, there are voices that would be connected to our self-worth. Um, and so that's connected to the archetypes of the prostitute or lover, right? Um, there is the voice of doubt, which I mentioned, which is connected to the saboteur and magician. Now, I'm mentioning these two names because one is the shadow side and the other is the flip or light side. That, when you're in more of a mastery energy, that would be the space that you're operating from. If it is that you have some growth, so lessons and things like that, you will be hanging around in the shadow part of it. Again, please don't use the lens of good and bad, right and wrong. As you're hearing these labels, it has nothing to do with that at all. It's just where your opportunity is, really. So if shadow is showing up for you, look at it as that's your beautiful opportunity. One of the best ways I like to speak to this, I like to say that there is a gem there. There is a hidden power, a hidden gem there for you to collect so that you win that level. Again, thinking about Mario on the screen, right? You go in there, you claim your prize, and you go to the next level. So shadows can be a great thing as part of the game. It's for you to not make yourself wrong for it. Which, by the way, if it is that you have that voice where you're always making yourself wrong, that's the child archetype. The opposite of that is the queen. And then of course there is the victim archetype that many of us are familiar with. The opposite of that is the warrior. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer that I want to mention when I'm talking about the victim. Yes, we know the broad strokes of what victim energy looks like, but it can also be when we're in a space of saying I can't, like I can't do this. It's almost saying like I don't have the resources, that kind of thing. And the warrior is resourceful, very resourceful, right? So it's just the flip of that. The saboteur might say, I don't know how to do this. The flip of that is a magician, where not only do you know, but you have the power of intuition, so you know even before it's happening. And then you're looking at the world catch up, what you saw how many months ago, right? So it's this kind of energy, and really allowing ourselves to have this sort of experience without judging ourselves. Like, well, if I did take on these things, would it make me superhuman? Who am I to do that? We can judge ourselves. What would people think of me? Again, these are labels coming from the prostitute voices, right? And instead of going through that lens, I mean, think of it. How many times have we already have done that to ourselves, thinking like that? What would the world look like? Really, what would the world look like if we chose more of the other side of the coin, of saying, I wonder what I'm really capable of. If I made this choice and I excelled at it, how would people benefit? How will it impact the world? What if we all choose the higher option? And for starting with ourselves and our immediate space, isn't that already solving a lot of the world's problems rather than pointing fingers and things like that? So it's it's a really beautiful way to start in making those changes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love this conversation around, you know, what goes on in our heads, because ultimately there's nothing else. We're just here now in this space at this time, and there's nothing else happening except us, what's happening in our head. And maybe if we're inspired to do something, right? And so it's that little intersection of saying, am I inspired to do something right now? And we have an
Yes,
airplane go by, that's awesome.
yes.
See, it's those things that happen that pull us off and say, does that mean something? Should we make that mean something now? That's really fun. Um, so, in those moments where we're discerning all those things, what do you find is the most helpful way to really discern the difference between all of those kind of voices
Hmm.
going on in our heads? And Angie says kind of like judgmental, like it comes off as kind of either judgmental or and like you say, making meaning. We want to make meaning out of everything.
Yes, yes. And so while you're asking the question, you're also hinting on how we can catch it and the solution. So to expand on that, the way to know to discern between the voices, if there is comparison, judgment, any sort of defamation, those kinds of energy, it's easy to catch. It can also be very sneaky. So for instance, when you start to master these levels, the sneaky energy shows up for you. And one way in which that can look like, for instance, we may choose connecting with a friend. It will be joyous, it will be happy, and all of that. And sometimes we might be doing that instead of the guidance that we were asked to do 10 minutes before, right? And we get on the phone and we're like, oh no, don't want to do that. I'm gonna talk with my friend. And so while this in itself, if we were just to take a snapshot at this moment, it's beautiful. But because of the energy behind it and what motivated this choice was not pure, that is where you can self-sabotage. That was a saboteur right there, because you're delaying time rather than doing the thing that you were guided to do. Um, so it's always looking at not only the action, but what was the energy before the action, before that choice. So that's a great way to start, and this is one of the best tips. So make use of it. Um, the other part too is, now that we're taking the action or seeing the thing, you can't continue to live your life in the same way. It's like, when we say, if you know better, do better. It's that kind of thing. You see it. One of my favorite sayings is, once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? It does require a higher level of refinement and discernment from you now that you're seeing the truth in an even higher level. And so it nudges you to operate on a higher level. It raises your awareness even more, and you have even more of an impact. And so this is the responsibility, so to speak, that comes with your love for truth and love, the energy of love. right? And this is why sometimes people don't want to face it because it feels too much or heavy and all these things. Yet it's actually really simple when we choose it from the first instance that it shows up. And we get better than that. We actually make it complicated if it's showing up for the 10th time and we're like, oh my goodness. Because now, if it's showing up for the 10th time, it really has to get your attention. So then you might have some body ailments that comes with it. Something that really like makes you go, okay, enough of this. I'm going to take the action. Right? So this is how we can set up the game. And then sometimes because we don't understand the energetics behind it, we may have blame or shame or guilt and all these other feelings that come up as a result of witnessing our current reality. All right. So
Well,
a
so
great way.
yeah, so so let's just bring this to a real situation because inside of your the big game container, you have also taken people as being the sacred watcher for them. You can hear the difference between those motivations and actually reflect that back so that it happens faster. And so I
Yeah.
think that that's it, is that that helpful voice inside of that of saying, okay, I can sit here and try to figure this all out myself, or we can bravely step inside of a container like that and say, okay, this is what I see. And can you tell us like an example of one of the people that you work with, like how that rolled out from beginning to end? Like what does that look like when someone
Sure.
really, especially for people who want to start a business or are in the beginning phases of their business, they're like, okay, I need to get out there in a bigger way. And they're like, I'm a
I
little
hear you.
stuck. Yeah.
I hear you. So for that, with the big game, it's very unique and organic to you. So it's not like I'm applying a particular system to match everybody because everybody's at a different point in their life. So it's unique to you. So the first phase of the big game is really designed to help you unveil your own mask, so to speak, get behind your own stories and see the motivation and the patterns and the choices and all that energetic dynamic. Um, and it doesn't mean that you need to put your life on pause at all. It actually is quite the opposite. Continue to live your life and we examine all the things as you go through your day to day life. Um, Take out the shadows, have you see the power behind that, claim that, and move forward. Then I know, especially if you're in the business space, we get to now apply this to the dynamics of your business to see where it is that you have um, been in some sort of default energy, what is required. And of course, all of this is based on guidance. It's also based on your unique soul signature and imprint and your purpose. So it's very specific to you.
Okay, hang on,
And
hang on,
it,
hang on, hang on. So,
this is your favorite part, though. Go ahead and say it. I know you love this part in the game.
well, it is true. And I'm wondering if you can help, in short of hopping full on into that kind of container, what is something that people though can do to get to that knowing place? Like they're like, okay, I got this. And a lot of people come to my community where they're like, okay, I've been called to create a game, or I've been called to create a deck, or put a course
Mhm.
up online, or create something like that. They have been called to that. And sometimes they can get through the creative part quite easily because that's the part that is naturally coming to them. Like they're like, I got this. And yet then there's this moment where it shifts from creating to business. And
Yes.
although we don't stop creating, like we're creating business now, there I'm wondering what if there's some tip that you have for our creators moving into businesses on how to make that leap gracefully.
Yes. And I love that you're asking this because you're one of the amazing role models in this space, that exact sweet spot that you're talking about. Because in the creativity, it's a lot of energy of delight. It's an energy of wonder. It's an energy of being amazed at how amazing you are. And those things are really good to start the creative process, and to bring the creative process home and really land it and have it available for people requires that level of clarity and decision making. Because for many of us as creatives, we can hang out in this space and be like, yeah, I can paint forever. It brings me so much joy. I don't need to do the other steps, right? And this is where, it's really self-sabotaging, because it's not designed, your life is not designed for you to only paint. It's almost as if you're saying, well, because I love food so much, yes, I'm only going to eat, right? I mean, think about it. If you did that, it wouldn't be conducive for you at some point. So it's really being like, okay, yes, I fulfilled this energy, this desire. Now what? It's for you to make that decision. So your timelines, again, not from a push energy, but look, really choose to be like, okay, I don't want to hold this within me, this thing that I've created. I want to share it with the world. Just as it brought me joy, I want the world to experience it. So it shifts your energy into really wanting the world to experience it. And again, not at your own expense, in the sense of you're not self sacrificing yourself and your things in order for the world to benefit, because that's an old pattern that we've played on this planet as well. So not playing that game.
So you're saying it
So
can be just
making
as
that decision,
fun, right? It can be just
it
as
can
fun
be,
as the creation, right?
it can be, but here's the thing. The next step is, it doesn't, I would be lying if I said that part is just as fun. It's the next two steps, right? So making that decision might be the hardest part for some people, to be like, okay, I've done as much as I needed to do here. Now is the next phase, making that decision, flipping into that space, doing what is required there, because that will come from guidance. It may look like a series of steps. It may look like one very unexpected leap. However it shows up for you, it's meant to serve you. And after you have that experience, then there's the energy of ease and glee and everything else that comes in the outcome, and seeing how much you have created an impact in,
Right.
from the beginning of the creation to now, how everybody is benefiting. So
Right, and
that
so,
is
yeah,
where
yeah,
it gets
exactly. So Lois was saying, of course, Lois was in the big game container, and she says, "Haha, that was me." And on the resistance of technology, like that was her thing. It's like, I can't do technology. We're not going to do that. And so it is kind of interesting to see this kind of real world thing, very artistic, very creative, amazing gifts to give to the world, and then saying, "No, I don't do technology." And taking that shift along the way. Beth says this sounds familiar. Yes, this is that shifting space, and I really hear you say it's about finding the framing of what we're doing right now. Like now we're creating a container so other people can experience what I just created. Right? So now we need a container that will allow that to happen and have that show up in as delightful a way as we get downloads and our artistic muse to show up and all those kind of things.
yes, yes. I love
Surprise
it.
and delight, because I like surprise and delight.
Yes, yes. And it's such a an available energy. Sometimes it's simply making that decision to have surprise and delight, and it shows up right there. You know, um, I love to do that with having deliveries, right? So if I'm ordering something and then it's showing up for me, yes, I see the date and I see when it expected, normal things, and I'd be like, I'd like that to be tomorrow. And then, of course, it shows up tomorrow, right? Or, and then I see two other things show up, and I'm like, oh, but they said that would be until the end of the month. I wasn't even thinking of it, and there it shows up with that item as well. Um, One of the best ones that I've had, Jean, was recently I made, this was grocery. So, of course, grocery is supposed to come in a few hours. But I literally made my order online for groceries, and it showed up less than an hour. I'm like, what the heck? This is really amazing.
Instant manifestation, right? Instant
Yes.
manifestation is all perfect. And it's true. You are a master at that, and being in your spaces, that's what starts happening. When we
Yeah.
hang out together, those things definitely start to happen. And we've been doing lots of fun things together, and you are actually doing some cool challenges also.
Yes.
Let's talk about those. Let's talk about some of the challenges. And I like challenges because they set it out in time like a game. It says, okay, we're going to have a 5-day game, and in this 5-day game, we're going to have a fun outcome. So tell us about your challenges.
Yes, I absolutely love the challenges. One of the things that I do like about creating challenges, it's by the time myself and the other people go through it, it's everybody's in a different world. So I do have a challenge that I've created. It's called the communication challenge. And so for those of you who haven't had a taste of that, it's a challenge that's already complete, but it's such an amazing challenge because it shows you the nuances of the energy behind the choice of words and what that really means. So it really helps you to catch your own shadows and programming that happens, and even have you question your new definition of words now that you're in a total different reality from maybe what you were 2 years ago, for instance. So that is one that you can leap into and enjoy at your own pace and comment. I will always see your comments anyway and come back and respond to you. And if it is that you're in the space for a more live, interactive challenge, I do have another one coming up this month. And that one is called The Outrageous Woman. Now, for many of those who know me, I have many different sides. And so there are times when I'm very quiet and gentle and all of that energy, compassionate. And then there's a bit of fierceness and boldness that shows up in quite the same breath. And so in the Outrageous Woman Challenge, you get to see your sides, you get to explore them, you get to see what that means for you, and really come out even stronger after that challenge. So if this is one that's calling you to participate live, because it will require you to show up live and to be involved in every step of the game, um, it is quite demanding, then do that. If not, if you're wanting to have a more lean back approach, I will definitely recommend the communication challenge. So start there. Um, so if you have any questions about any of those, feel free to um, PM me and ask me anything. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Okay, I think I got it up. Okay, cool. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Thank you, Jean.
Okay, got the challenges up. The links are right in the feed there. Cool. All right, that took me a hot minute. I hope they work. Okay,
Thank
cool.
you.
And you know, some of Kavita's superpowers are really simply, and I would say simply, there's no just in any of this, right? Is holding space, which this is what I love about a lot of the things that we do together that show up in the moment, and we're like, well, that was fun. Let's do it more. And so we have actually a Zap challenge that it's a free community also. I will shoot you some information about that. We just have so many cool things going on that in the space of not wanting to overwhelm people, I try not to, put too much stuff out there, but this is so amazing, like we're just all having so much fun inside this that I always want to make sure that, people want to know, how do we have more of this? So
Yes, exactly.
I will definitely get some more information to everyone about the Zap challenge, or that's not a challenge, that's a community. And the Zap community, well, I don't know. Okay,
Yes,
there's something coming up.
Yes, I wouldn't want to share about a Zap space. So that Zap space, it's really cool in the sense of you embracing what the month's energy will be. So while yes, we have systems on astrology and what's not, for me, the Zap space is a space that I hold dear to my heart because it really talks about your place of power in all of this, right? So while all these energies might be swirling around, it's you choosing what that means for you It's you choosing what's showing up in your life, making it very unique and personal to you. And then you also being open to the bigness of that energy. So while you might be experiencing, let's say, the power of receiving, maybe you've been doing it 80%, then how do you turn up the dial on that to make it 100%? You're right. So it's a beautiful space for you to really explore that and lean back. It's definitely an energy to lean back and to receive that bigness and that birthing of your desires and pure energy at the beginning of the month so that it unfolds naturally through the course of the month, and then to be surprised and delighted by the time the month ends to see how amazing it was. And in hindsight, everything looks very clean and simple and easy. In that split moment you might be going through it, you might have a little doubt in whatever you're facing, but it's always so beautiful to watch it. And hindsight doesn't have to be a year after or, in the moment when you're dying kind of thing. This is where we do that at the end of every month. Yes. So we don't need to prolong things. Things can be
Exactly.
very rapid.
Exactly. So Zap actually is a container that stands for Zen, is finding your connection to your higher self. A is activating through play, which means we're just going to play. And P is productivity, because ultimately on this plane on Earth, we want to get some things done. And that's the manifesting space. That's right where we have this instant manifesting starting to show up and that kind of thing.
Yes.
And so this has been, if we started talking about stories of manifesting, then we'd be here for days, because we've had
Yes.
so much fun with manifesting exactly what we want to have happen on the planet. That that'll be another interview. We'll talk about flat out just manifesting, and we'll get that on the screen too. That is so
Yes, I
beautiful.
love that.
All right, so I am wondering if there is some last wisdom that you would like to leave with our viewers today.
All right. So one of the things that's coming up in this moment is, um, for many of us, we're in a space of learning, right? We are excited to learn new things and to explore maybe new skill sets and things like that. And it's not only about that, especially, if you're in your reality where the things that you've been doing, maybe you can't do it as much, and you're navigating how to move forward. It's really to see where the things that you truly love, how you can also apply it, maybe in a different way, maybe through the use of technology, um, so that it serves an even greater audience, um, so that it fuels you and lights you up, rather than you're only a student in your reality of learning. And I think it's good to recognize that you're both the student and the teacher, and to have the ability to flip roles, even in the course of 24 hours. And, certain part of your day you're a student, certain part you're the teacher, certain part you're receiving, a certain part you're giving, ensuring that you're nourishing yourself as well in the process so that you don't experience burnout. Because we have been very much aware that burnout can happen in our business, in the office, and things like that. But sometimes we don't recognize that it also can happen, if it is that we're consistently trying to set up systems and go through the motions of what we should be doing. Because the should right there is recipe for burnout, right? You've really got to be tapping into your own unique gifts and strengths and the things that fuel your soul and your passion to be able to enjoy your reality to its fullest. So that's something I wanted to touch on today. And I trust that it serves and it helps our audience.
Yes, we never quite know who exactly the message was for, but it's probably for you. It's probably just for you. So you'll all
Yes.
get it. So thank you. Thank you. And thanks so much for hanging out with me on my birthday, Kavita, and for
Yes.
giving all of your wisdom here and sharing a little bit of your magic with all the people here in our community. And Of course, if you want to know more about Kavita, you'll find her below in the links. Either one of those challenges are amazing. Yes, do that. Or reach out to her on Messenger and ask her your questions, because she'll have an answer, which is always awesome. Thank you for coming. Thank you all for watching today and hanging out with me. If you're watching later, go ahead and give us a replay and hashtag replay. And we would love to answer your questions as well. So thanks for hanging with us, and we will see you all soon. Love you.
Thank you, Gian. Enjoy the rest of your birthday. Love you guys. We'll talk again soon. Bye for now.